Yeah, it's a lingering fear that has been culturally prescribed around death. And I would argue that death is also the fear of death and the misunderstanding, and then just the I won't go there, touch it, talk about it, we're just going to ignore it till it comes kind of attitude that's persisted for so many decades has
Yeah.
really, it festers underneath a lot of other problems, right? That it plays out in other fears and other ways. And I respect so much that, you know, psychedelics can also reach into those experiences as well and be associated with them in a healing manner. And I mean, just the way that we're talking about this now, I'm sure in this late 60s and early 70s, like there were, classroom conversations just like it, but everyone can see it now, right? And so there's hope to be had, and I think
Yeah.
it's not empty hope at all.
No.
So where do you let's go back to our imaginations real quick,
Okay.
because I have to keep reminding myself that there's only ketamine that's legally, that can be distributed because it is a legal substance. Um, what pulling from okay, let's pull from your what you've learned so far in your program. What are the cautions that are being taken, and what are the potential pitfalls or things that or oversights that are being discussed, right? Because no one is out here assuming that it's just going to work for everybody. My mom did ketamine assisted therapy, and it, like, not many, but some people that go through that, it was not sustainable. And she's
Right.
like, I'm not going back to do that again. And so that was disappointing for me to see, because I have also read the research that says like it also can do profound things. So I don't want to say, well, like, how are we tiptoeing around not making a mistake, because mistakes are going to be made as this field in
Mhm.
the future is built. But it's not all roses and sunshine. So what does that side look like? That precautionary step.
Yeah, those are good questions, and there's always the chance that we don't know what we don't know. So things will come up that we haven't necessarily thought about, or we're not in our awareness. Off the top of my head, I think one of the biggest concerns, and one of the things that I'm gaining a lot of thoughtfulness around, is there are many folks who are concerned around the cultural appropriation of medicines that have been in indigenous cultures for centuries. And so, particularly psilocybin, there's concern that it will get overused, that the resources that exist right now around, psilocybin will disappear, that the, westernization of psychedelics in terms of, helping people will be inappropriate. And so there's a significant concern around that. And I will say that the program that I'm in is really emphasizing this area. So there's that. There is caution and concern around, and which is another area that could be an entire field in relation to harm reduction. There's in terms of how people, kind of decide, because they could access these medications on their own, that they're going to do their own treatment, that they're going to do this by themselves, that they're going to access the medications if it's decriminalized and engage in their own treatment. They don't know the appropriate dosing. They don't know necessarily, how to help themselves if it becomes challenging while they're under the influence. So harm reduction is another really significant area of, attention. There's that. There's, and I'll just say the monopolization of these substances. We have a bit of a concern that is popping up, where there are clinics that are just providing IV ketamine, where you can kind of walk in and get your ketamine and go. There's no connection with integration. There's no connection with preparation. It's basically like a drip station. Sorry for the, lingo, but that's kind of the term that has been used. So there's a lot of concern again about how this, we kind of watched how cannabis got rolled out as a legal substance, and no one wants to see billboards of, mushrooms like they see billboards of cannabis. And at least nobody in this industry, in this area, that's wanting to provide it as treatment really wants to see it get rolled out like recreational cannabis did. So there's a lot to be concerned about.
Right. There's some level of discretion here that is appropriate and necessary within the field of mental health and, harm reduction. And cannabis is its own level. And so it's going to, I guess it kind of has been like the trial run of adjusting and readjusting our laws and our perceptions around, Schedule I drugs or drugs that have been deemed, unusable. And so I'm hopeful that we can learn from just watching that industry, because it is still going. I mean, even the states that have legalized it, capitalism is eating it up. And
Yeah.
it just like you said, I'm so happy you mentioned the concern with cultural appropriation, because this is not like a Christopher Columbus, like we discovered it. It's no. We are just now stopping the backtrack and having the opportunity as a Western society to create the space for this to be reintroduced and reobserved and reevaluated with a different mindset. There's got to be some sort of a loss in efficiency or effectiveness of psychedelics with any kind of disrespect or oversight of the history, the tradition, how the wisdom and knowledge and information about these medicines that existed way before the hippies in the 70s, right? There's more to it than that. Just like there's more to language than what we have, as English speakers and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And again, it kind of just keeps, these points you're making are so brilliant, because it does, for me in my mind, it keeps pointing back to like the cautionary tales are here. And I think because of the weight of psychedelics, these medicines and their potential, the experiences are so profound and yet so hard for us still to communicate effectively. Apart from, much of the submersive experiences people have, either as professionals or, in their own time, it's nice to see that we're willing to look behind the curtain and with complete conscientiousness of this. We're not the first people to try this. Let's not reinvent the wheel or the mushroom, right? Let's not make this more difficult, but let's also not play with fire. And I think human services, the field of human services, I mean, public policy writers, crisis interventionists, counselors, everyone's going to have a chance to step up, because I think we are going to be perceived as the field to like hold that level of integrity that should be used around these kinds of treatments, because they will be, a huge part of the work that all of us do. And that's really cool. It's really cool, but it's also very unsettling, I guess. I know, but it's human services. Like everything's unsettling for us.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it any better. I mean, I really do feel that we could, hold that space and be the folks who help kind of, bring this in to our field, our industry in a very responsible, respectable way.
Yeah, because we're not going to let the government do it. No.
We touch everyone's lives. We touch, everyone's lives in so many different arenas, and to have some understanding and knowledge of what this is and to help someone who is, really seeking, help when nothing else has helped is pretty profound, and the other big concern is the cost. How much is this going to cost? I mean, right now, if you wanted to go, let's just say that there are other forms of psychedelics out there, right? Ayahuasca is a big one that many people are seeking out and engaging, but it's thousands of dollars to receive ayahuasca. And you probably need to travel to, another country. So,
and that can be very, very, very dangerous.
Yeah, accessibility and cost. Everyone should be able to have access. Yeah.
That is around ayahuasca. Is there any research being done with the same motive as far as treatment therapy? Because I don't think it's I can't think of the forefront of my mind as that being part of the conversation. I know it's a huge concern with the appropriation of people going to other countries for the very valid but understandable spiritual treatment of that experience. But like substance, is it there? Is it?
I can't speak to that. I would assume that there probably are some research efforts going on around ayahuasca and kind of looking at those things. But in my knowledge, it's still very much based in that sort of spiritual experience that having an ayahuasca guide and plant medicine, I'll say, seems to be a little different just in terms of how people engage with it, because it's definitely not something that's kind of high on the. That's probably not the right way to say it, but it's not undergoing any FDA approved trials to my knowledge, and so it's not getting that kind of momentum behind it. It's not hitting the front pages like MDMA does, and in terms of research and efficacy and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it is definitely out there, and there are definitely individuals who are providing ayahuasca ceremony.
Yeah, I without going too far into sounding, like my hippy dippy self that I can be sometimes, I am very hopeful that, fingers crossed, that there is a space created within human services that does go beyond the therapy room or your online therapy session that touches those bounds of spiritual health, spiritual well-being and health. And I'm not referring to like the kind of Instagram gurus you see or the cult leaders that randomly pop up and disappear with hundreds of people. I'm talking about legitimately exercising of exploring a realm, just like psychedelic treatment, that is just oversought. You do your thing, I'll do mine. But call me crazy, but I feel like that's a huge part of our health and well-being anyways. And that is why you have people going, across the world for different types of plant medicine experiences, because, whether the research is there or not, the knowledge is, the anecdotal information is. So if somebody's done it and had a successful either ego death or reawakening, as terrible as the experience might be in hearsay, there's space for us to make more room on our plate, but there's still space for us too to not only approach the diagnosis and the mental health behaviors and concerns that we already do in a different light, but to also expand that exploration into spiritual concepts of self, which then leads into psychology, and they're well enough underneath our umbrella. So the potential is there to really not just ignore what all the psychonauts were talking about in the past that they couldn't find the words for, right? But still, I say that knowing there are cautionary tales that follow us right into the future. Do you have any success stories that you've seen? I know you're still in training. I don't know if I'm not going to assume that you've been around to see quite yet the modality and practice, but besides the research, success stories? I mean, are you seeing it in Texas? Like anything that just warms you up inside because it was close to home?
Hmm. Let me think. That's a good question. Let me think about that. I think, let me just I'll go on a little bit of a tangent, but I think it will kind of, from my perspective, answer your question. And so feeling kind of isolated in this path, I was looking for a community to get involved with that was, engaging in this form of treatment, because I was feeling really isolated. And I think one of the things that is really standing out to me in terms of psychedelic assisted therapies is the discussion and the talk and the need for community. And that really not just as practitioners, but as the clients, the individuals who are receiving the medicine, the emphasis is on what community are you engaged with? Who are you going back to after this medicine? How is it you want to live your life after this medicine? And that to me was like, I really want a community that I can connect with. So I was fortunate to get connected with an association here in my hometown in Austin that is being created and for psychedelic assisted therapists, altered practitioners, and or folks who are practicing these. And so, right now, long story short, I'm involved. I'll call it a working group of individuals who are practicing using these medicines, and it is a diverse group. It are folks who are providing shaman ceremony. It is folks who are in other countries who are, establishing medicine facilities. It is folks who are providing services to individuals who are seeking this out. And, and I'm the academic in the room. They have opened their doors to me to where I can sit and listen and learn and be a part of their community. And the wealth of information that I'm receiving from the individuals in this group has just really warmed my heart, just really made me feel a part of a community like I haven't felt like in a long time, professionally or personally. And so that to me right now is the biggest takeaway for myself is this is a community of individuals who are doing everything that they can to provide treatment for folks who have not found any help in any other way. And so when I listen to them, they talk about success stories within their own practices, and that warms my heart. Some of their clients that are just taking away just profound insight about their life and about maybe the trauma or the experience that they'd had that really been weighing them down, and able to literally let that go off into the universe while they're underneath the influence of the medicine, profoundly changes their lives. And what's also helpful for me is listening to folks who are actually doing the work, reading the research that also says that it is the dissociative effects and the peak experiences that someone has under the medicine that has the most positive outcomes. So all the work that these folks are doing on their own, is matching up with the research that's coming out. So it's the real world and academia maybe finally understanding each other. Maybe that's just my, on a really good day, that's what I'm feeling.
Oh, it's a dream. And I'm embarrassed to kind of say, I didn't realize that disconnect was there until way into college. I'm like, y'all know there are answers and these journals that you put walls up to keep people from reading, right? And you've also put it in language that, it is because it is crazy in academia, at least for me, and I'm very excitable, and I realize that. But just, all the journals I've had to read for school, and just that confirmation of yes, and no one's seeing this information because one, it's in a language that only academia can understand, and I don't know at what point this happened, but researchers got real far away from valuing the just beauty and insight of
Mm.
subjective experience. And so, because qualitative data, that's can't rely on that, can you? Which I can't say now that I'm in grad school. I'm seeing, like, especially in like critical psychology, like a lot of people backing up and be like, wait. Let's give this
Yeah.
a second thought here because I think we're getting
Yeah.
too stingent. But I
Yeah.
digress. I have one more question for you,
Yeah.
and I'm thinking like a student or really just any viewer who's sitting and watching this and thinking like, okay, how do I get involved?
Hmm.
Um, short from seeing Ted down the road who's a drug dealer. Like, how do I work my way into being a professional
Mm.
working towards this new pioneering experience? Like
Yeah.
what would you tell them?
That's a really good question, and it's because there's not a lot of paths right now. I would say first of all to look at the certification programs that are available, and I can provide you with a
Mhm.
list, and kind of begin to be curious and cautious about certification programs. But look into the certification programs that are out there and see what kind of qualifications they're asking for. Many might not necessarily need you to be a licensed professional, licensed practitioner already. Maybe as an undergrad student, you could begin a certification path. In my mind, there is potential for people to be, at some point, be the person who sits with the client when the client is under the influence. So we're calling them sitters, the person who is present, who is available for the person while they're under the influence or receiving the dose. So, and in my mind, there could potentially be professional opportunities for folks who don't need a master's degree, who don't need to be licensed, but to be trained to understand what it is to be a sitter. And so there's not a lot of avenues right now for, getting into the industry or whatever we want to call it, because it doesn't exist yet. But to begin to be curious about what's necessary to become certified. What kind of education do I need? Do I need a bachelor's level degree? Do I need a master's level degree? Once I'm certified, what might I be doing? Where might I be working? And I would say, if you are a student, begin to challenge your instructors. Ask them questions. What do we know about psychedelics? And ask your instructors to begin to talk about this, incorporate this into your classes. Ask if you can write a paper on it. See, and just begin to open the door for us to talk about this. And, in my experience as an educator, and as a clinician, it was my clients who got me into it. There are many times where it's my students who make me go, oh, whoops, I need to go read more. I need to go look at this because, that would be, I think, a great way to open up this conversation.
That's a perfect answer. I think not to, I don't want to sound like it's a brag or that I'm crapping on other professions that still technically fall under the umbrella of human services, such as doctors or nurses. But what I feel like human service professionals still possess in the small pockets of us, especially in school, it's still there in school, right? Is a curiosity about the human experience that is allowing for this space to be created for things like psychedelic treatment, right? It is affirming to have a classroom where that conversation can occur. Wherein the medical field can be and has slacked in many of a ways, where I would be more nervous if it was the medical field that had their hands on the interest on this, on psychedelic treatments, because damn, that's really making me think too. It takes both, right? It takes a village to raise the barn, but like as practitioners, we're not just in integrating this into our work, but we're advocating for it too, and we are all about that as well, right? We
Absolutely.
have to advocate, we have to, and we are recognized culturally as that. So,
Mm-hmm.
short of placing a value judgment on the perception of human service professionals, like we are the glam squad of people to be kind of having our right to have our hands on this beautiful and amazing opportunity.
Yeah.
um,
Let's
and
open
probably do
this.
a better job this time around.
Yeah. Let's be the ones to
Yeah,
open the
slowly.
space. Yeah. Slowly open the space. That's right. Yeah.
Hmm. Oh, I did have one more question. And I don't know if this will make it into the final edit, but I understand quite a lot about the psychedelic treatments and therapies and just the culture here in the United States. Um, do you know anything about what's going on around the world?
Mm.
Not including indigenous cultures that have a very deep understanding of their plant medicines and such, but what in Europe, like,
Yeah.
are we real far behind? Michelle, tell me, how far behind are we?
I don't think we are. I think we maybe, in my perspective, have begun to catch up because we, of course, in the United States, like shut the research down, just like none. But in other countries,
Hmm.
that's not the case. And so Holland, Switzerland, many other countries were doing this research while we weren't. Let's put it that way. And so particularly with psilocybin, you know, um, and MDMA. And so a lot of to my limited knowledge right now, a lot of the information that we're receiving in this certification track is from folks from other countries. A lot of our lecturers are folks who've been doing research in other countries for, quite a few years, really bringing forward the solid, knowledge base. And, in clinical and the clinical application, like what this looks like, how does this work best? Like, how do we need to be providing this? And so, yeah, I'd say I feel good that maybe we're catching up, but they've been doing it for a while.
Yeah. What a privilege. What a privilege. Of course, not of course, but like, we're damn lucky that we went through decades of pushing this evil into almost nothingness. And as soon as, we're back in the game and we're reshifting our perspective, like, we have the resource. At the least, we have the global resources
Yes.
to catch back up, right? Like, not only, I'm going to just put it this way, not only have we culturally screwed ourselves for so long now, long enough to cause a lot of damage, but now we're back on the scene, and the holes that there's less eggshells to walk on, right? Again, pointing back to that, like, that risk of losing opportunity again, like, we better not. We can't, And I believe in us, of all professionals, to know better, right?
Yeah.
Confidentiality is huge for us. Self-care, exploration, curiosity, continued education. Like, these are all elements that play into this new exploration. And Michelle, I am so glad human beings like you exist, because you aren't just looking at this scientifically. Like, you're damn curious.
Yeah.
People need curiosity so much, and
Yeah.
especially around something that it requires such a cultural perspective shift.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Thanks. I'm having fun with it. It's been, I kind of got my big toe in, and I was like, okay, let me pull back out. And then I got
Mm-hmm.
my feet in, and I was like, okay, this isn't so bad. And I kind of walked back out. And then now I'm like, I'm really in there, and I'm up to my waist. Some days I'm over my head. I'm like, oh my goodness, but it's amazing it's just been an amazing experience, how much I've learned, how much I've been forced to learn about myself, the people that I've been connected to now, just an amazing, amazing group of people that are really out there doing just incredible things, and just really serving, providing a service. And it's phenomenal.
Yeah, that is the whether you are consuming psychedelics or just working with them and never touch them in your life, in either position or any on the spectrum in between, it's like a consistent thing of, bet you didn't know you could know yourself better, and without even taking it. And it's like, okay, come on, y'all, like lighten up, dude. Let's do something.
Well, it's been so fun. I've really enjoyed it. I've really appreciated your interest and you're willing to, spend time talking with me and just kind of loving getting to know you. So thank you so much for the time. And I do plan to be at the conference. I hope to be there. And I would love, love, love to have a full-on conversation about this with anyone who wants to have that conversation.
I'm getting TED Talk vibes and I'm loving it. That very it's just hopeful. It's just full of hope. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Yeah, thank you.